Assalamu alaikum, dear students. This is your teacher Umara Shaheen. Today we will start a very interesting topic. The name of the topic is inheritance. In this topic, we will be learning about chromosomes, genes, how genes are transmitted, and then we will be able to distinguish between the terms like genes, alleles, and then we will be describe what a dominant recessive allele is and what is phenotype and genotype. Now, first we need to understand what the word inheritance means. Inheritance means transmission of characteristics from one generation to another generation. Like in this diagram, you can see that mother possesses curly hair and mother has passed on this characteristic to the daughter, and daughter also has curly hair, and all this is because of inheritance. Now first we need to understand few terms. Here you can see that there is an animal cell showing an organelle called nucleus, and nucleus monitors all the activities of the cell with the help of genetic material, and name of the genetic material is DNA. It's a chemical deoxyribonucleic acid. Now when the cell is in non-dividing phase, this genetic information appears in the form of thread, and those thread-like structures are called chromatin. But when the time of cell division comes, the chromatin condenses itself and it gains a specific shape called the chromosome. Now this chromosome, look at this diagram. There are two chromatids in the chromosome. This is first chromatid, this is second chromatid. These two chromatids are joined at a position, and this position is called centromere. Now the number of chromosomes is specific in each species. Like if you remember, humans have 46 chromosomes in the form of 23 pair, and this information is said to be diploid. And when it comes to gamete, this genetic information is reduced to half and it is said to be haploid. This chromosome number is specific to each species. Like humans have 46, similarly kangaroo have 12 and fruit fly has 8 chromosomes. Now the chromosome, they exist in pair. And why they exist in pair? Because one chromosome is coming from the father and one chromosome is coming from the mother, and this pair of chromosome is called homologous chromosome. Now this is a simplified diagram of a chromosome so that you can understand clearly. This entire chromosome, it contains a chemical called DNA, but all of it is not responsible for coding specific characteristics like your eye color, your hair color, your intelligence, your skin color. The small segments of this DNA molecule is responsible for producing specific traits like your height, intelligence, hair color. These segments of the DNA which are responsible for producing specific traits, these segments are called genes. So how can you define gene? We can say that gene is the unit of inheritance which is responsible for characteristics, and those characteristics are transmitted from one generation to another generation, or you can say that these are the coding part of DNA. Now if you look at the chromosome, now in this chromosome, this position is for eye color, and in other chromosome the same position is reserved for the eye color, and the position of the gene on a specific chromosome is called gene locus. Here you can see there's another term called allele. Now what an allele is, look at this diagram. The trait is of eye color, but there are different types of eye color. There is a variety. Eye can be black, it can be blue, it can be green, it can be brown. The trait is same, but there are alternate forms. There are different types. These different forms or alternate types of the gene is called allele, and they occupy same position on the pair of homologous chromosome. Like here in this diagram, you can say that this is an allele from brown eye color coming from father. Here we have a blue eye color allele coming from the mother, but they occupy same locus, same gene position on a homologous pair of chromosome. Then here this is another example of the trait. The trait is the height, but there are two different types of height. A plant can be tall and a plant can be dwarf, and this is maintained by alleles. Now here there's another image. This diagram is called karyotype. In humans we have 46 chromosomes, and it is very difficult to distinguish them. So scientists, what they do, that they separate them and they arrange them according to their size and appearance, and then we call this diagram karyotype. Now we will be using this diagram in our next lesson so that you will understand it clearly. Up till now it is enough that you remember that this arrangement of chromosome, this is called karyotype. Now moving on to the next term, which is phenotype or genotype. Phenotype is the physical appearance, the characteristics which are visible, which are observable, like your hair color, like your skin color, like your height, like your eye color. Then we have the genetic makeup of the organism, which is called genotype. It is the combination of different genes. When it comes to genotype, we can have two conditions. A person may be homozygous. Homo means same. Zygous is coming from the word zygote. If the person possesses similar genes for a specific trait, then the person is said to be homozygous. For example, look over here. The capital letter shows the trait which express itself, and such trait is called a dominant trait, and it is represented by a capital letter. And if the person is receiving, like the height, if we talk about the height, the tallness is a dominant trait. If the person is receiving a tall allele from the father and a tall allele from the mother, the person is said to be homozygous tall. And if the person is receiving the allele of dwarfness from the father and allele of dwarfness from the mother, the person is said to be homozygous dwarf. But if the condition is such that the person has two different alleles on a homologous chromosome, like a person has allele from the father, the allele is of tallness, and from the mother, the allele is of dwarfness, then the person is said to be heterozygous for that trait on a homologous chromosome. See, you understand this difference? Homozygous means that we have same gene on the homologous pair, and heterozygous means that we have different allele of a same gene on a homologous pair. Then we have another concept to understand. When it comes to phenotype, it is monitored by genes and environmental factor. Like if we talk about skin color, if the person is person has the gene producing skin fair color, but fair skin color, but the person has the nature of work such that he or she has to work in direct sunlight. As a result, a melanin pigment is produced and person's skin tone will be darker. So there is the effect of environment as well, like sunlight is the environment factor. When it comes to phenotype, it is monitored or controlled by genes plus environmental factors, but when it comes to genotype, it is only regulated by genes. Now this is the last concept of today's topic, that is dominant and recessive allele. Now there are some traits which are dominant in nature and there are some traits which are recessive in nature. It doesn't mean that dominants are some good traits or recessive are some bad traits, but there are some traits which are dominant in nature. Then what is meant by dominant? It means if the condition is homozygous or heterozygous, the trait will express itself. For example, a person is receiving alleles of tallness from father and mother, the person will be tall or the plant will be tall. But if a plant is receiving allele of tallness from one parent and dwarfness from the other parent, the person will be tall. The allele of dwarfness will be suppressed by the allele of tallness. That is why this is called a dominant allele. And then we have a recessive allele. Recessive allele, it will only express itself when it is in homozygous condition. That is, we are receiving the alleles of dwarfness from the father and the mother both, only then the person or the plant will be dwarf. That is why it is said to be recessive. It will only express itself, it is present on both the homologous chromosome, and if it is present only on one, like in case of heterozygous condition, then it will not express itself as it is recessive. And dominant trait will express itself in both homozygous and heterozygous condition, but recessive allele will only express itself if it is in homozygous condition. Dear student, this is all from today's topic. Go through the video, understand the lesson. If you have any queries, you can ask. This topic is basis for the next topics, so understand this and clarify the concept so that we can move forward. Okay dear students, best of luck. Allah Hafiz.